name is Miss Jones. I teach elementary school math, and welcome to my channel, Miss Math Jones. Today, we're going to be working on our third grade Eureka Module 4, Lesson 5 homework. Let's get started. The objective for our homework today is to find the area of a rectangle through multiplication of the side lengths. Now let's take a look at number 1. Number 1 says, write a multiplication equation to find the area of each rectangle. We're going to go ahead and start with letter A. Letter A's rectangle has a length of 3 centimeters and a width of 8 centimeters. Now let's remember going into our homework that the formula or the equation that helps us to find area is length times width. So when we set up our equation to find the area for each one of these rectangles or squares, if we have squares in our homework, then it's going to be the length times the width. So now looking at rectangle A, which is the rectangle that's under the letter A, we have a side length of 3 centimeters and the other side length of 8 centimeters. So we have a length of 3 and a width of 8. So our equation for this one would be 3 times 8. And what's 3 times 8? Well, if you said 24, you'd be absolutely correct. So that means that the area of this rectangle is 24 square centimeters. Okay, now let's move on to letter B. The length of this rectangle is 6 centimeters and the width of this rectangle is 8 centimeters. So if we use our formula to calculate area of length times width, we write our formula in the blanks as 6 times 8. Now, take a moment to think about what the answer for 6 times 8 would be. And if you need to create a ratio table, that's fine. If you need to skip count, that's also fine. Now, the answer for 6 times 8 is 48. So that means that the area for the rectangle under letter B is 48 square centimeters. Now, let's go ahead and move on and D under number 1. Now, for letter C, this is a square. I know this is a square because my length and my width have the exact same measurement. My length is 4 feet, my width is 4 feet, which means this is a square. So all of these sides on the shape under letter C are going to be the exact same. Now, I still use the same area formula because we're looking to find the area. So we're going to multiply our length, which is 4, times our width, which is also 4. And what is 4 times 4? Take a moment to think about that. You may need to skip count or create a ratio table. That's fine. And the answer that you should receive when you multiply 4 times 4 is 16. So that means our area for the square under letter C is 16. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at letter D. The length for the rectangle under letter D is 4 feet, and the width for the rectangle under letter D is 7 feet. So that means that our equation to find area for this particular rectangle would be 4 times 7. Now, let's take a moment to figure out what the answer for 4 times 7 would be. And if the answer that you were able to calculate was 28, then you are correct. So that means that the area for the rectangle under letter D should be 28 square feet. All right, now let's go ahead and move on to the number 2. Now, number 2 says to write a multiplication equation and a division equation to find the unknown side length for each rectangle. Now, we have to think about this as a fact family. If you know what 3 facts or factors that you're working with, then you're able to figure out the missing factor. All right. So number 2 says write a multiplication equation and a division equation to find the unknown side length for each rectangle. Let's start with letter A. So we have a length of 3 feet. We don't know the width, but we know the area is 24 square feet. Now, don't put a question mark there. I just put that there just as a reminder that that's the information that we're looking for. We don't want to write anything there because we don't want to have to keep erasing, okay? So I put a question mark there just as a reminder that that's the information that you're looking for. You don't necessarily have to put a question mark there on your homework. All right, so let's fill in the blanks with what we do have. All right, so in my multiplication equation, where those blanks are, I can put a 3 there. So 3 times, I don't know. I have my length, I don't have my width. So my length is 3 times my width of, I don't know, so leave that blank, equals my area of 24. Now we can also write that as a division equation with the numbers that we have, which we would write it as 24, which is my area, divided by my length of 3 feet equals the number that I'm looking for. All right, well, 3 times what equals 24 will also give me the answer to 24 divided by 3. And if you know your factors, and if you don't, that's okay. Again, you can create a ratio table of 3s. You can skip a count by 3s to figure it out. But once you do the work, then the answer that you should receive is 8. 3 times 8 equals 24, which also means that 24 divided by 3 equals 8. So that means that our missing side width is 8 feet. Okay, now let's move on over to the next rectangle. So our length is what is missing here, but we do have our width of 9 feet. So we're missing our length, and we have our width of 9 feet, and we know that our area is 36 square feet. So let's go ahead and fill in the blanks with what we do know. So we don't know our length, so we're going to keep that blank. Our width is 9 feet, so we're going to write a 9 there. And our area is 36 square feet, so we can write 36 in that last blank. So our multiplication equation reads as our unknown number times 9 equals our area of 36. Now we can also write this as a division equation, and we write that as 36 divided by 9 would give us our unknown length. Now again, don't write question marks in those blanks. I just put those question marks there just to remind us that we're missing that information, and that's what we're looking for. Okay, now let's use our knowledge of multiples of 9 or the factor of 9 to figure out what that missing number is. Now you could create a 9 ratio table, or you can count by 9s until you get to 36 to figure out 9 times what factor is going to give you 36. All right, now once you do your work and complete your calculations, the answer that you should have gotten is 4. 4 times 9 equals 36, and 36 divided by 9 equals 4. So the missing side length is 4. Okay, you may need to pause the video to write everything down and make sure that your numbers match mine, and if that's the case, go ahead and do so now. Let's look at number 3. Number 3 says, on the grid below, draw a rectangle that has an area of 32 square centimeters. Label the side lengths. So that means that we want a rectangle whose total area is 32. So the first thing I'm going to ask myself is, okay, what two numbers can I multiply to get 32? Now, every time I think of the number 32, the two factors that always come to mind for me are 4 and 8, because I know that 4 times 8 equals 32. So I'm going to start labeling my side length of 4 first. So go ahead and write the numbers down the length of this array. 1, 2, 3, 4, because our length is going to be 4. Now, again, I said the two factors that I thought of was 4 and 8. So that means that my other side has to be 8 square centimeters. So I'm going to label my width as 8. Okay, so I have my length as 4, I have my width as 8. So now I've mapped out where my rectangle should be. Now I'm going to go ahead and shade in my rectangle that's 4 by 8, or 4 times 8, which is 32 centimeters. Now you go ahead and take time to shade yours in too. And you may want to pause the video now to go ahead and shade that in. And if so, that's okay. And again, the area for this rectangle is 32 square centimeters. 4 times 8 equals 32 square centimeters. Now let's take a look at number 4. Number 4 says Patricia draws a rectangle that has side lengths of 4 centimeters and 9 centimeters. What is the area of the rectangle? Explain how you found your answer. So first, let's draw a model of a rectangle. And if your rectangle is not perfect, that's okay. Now, it says that we're going to have side lengths of 4 centimeters and 9 centimeters. So my length, my short side is going to be 4 centimeters, and my width, the longer side, is going to be 9 centimeters. And how do we find area? Area is length times width. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and plug in my numbers in my area formula, or my area equation. So area equals 4 centimeters times 9 centimeters. Now, you can complete a ratio table or count by 4s or count by 9s, which is shorter, to determine your answer. And once you finish your calculations and you complete your work, then your answer should be 36 square centimeters. 4 centimeters times 9 centimeters is 36 square centimeters. Now, it says, explain how you found your answer. Well, the answer that you can write down for your explanation is as follows. I found my answer by using the formula for area, which is length times width. Now, you may want to go ahead and pause your video so that you can make sure that the answer on your paper matches the answer on my screen. Let's take a look at number 5, which is the last question of our homework. Number 5 says Charles draws a rectangle with a side length of 9 inches and an area of 27 square inches. What is the other side length? How do you know? Okay, so first I'm going to draw my rectangle with a side length of 9 inches and an area of 27 square inches. So I label one side as 9 inches and I write my area in the middle, just to remind me that it's supposed to be 27 square inches. Now, I know my formula for area is length times width. So I can write it out, including a blank for the number that's missing or a question mark to help me solve. All right, so my length, I don't know, right? So I write a little question mark on my model. And when I write my equation, I start off my equation with a question mark because I don't know my length. So length times my width of 9 inches equals 27 square inches. Now, when I write it out like that, then I can pretty much guess from my experience with multiples of 9 and 3s what should go in that blank. But just make sure to double check your work so that you get the right answer. Now, if you need to write it as a division equation to solve it, that's okay. So you would start with 27 square inches divided by 9 inches, and that would give you the missing length. All right. Well, if you know your factors, and if you don't, that's okay. You can create a ratio table or a skip count to figure out the answer. The answer that you should have received is 3 inches. So the missing number is 3 inches. Now make sure that when you create your model on your paper, you go ahead and create it like this. And as far as your explanation where it says, how do you know? I know because 3, 9, and 27 are in the same fact family. 27 divided by 9 is 3. Now you may want to go ahead and pause your video to write that information down. And as I said, that question was the last question in your homework. So lesson 5 homework is complete. Congratulations. As always, I hope this video helped you to complete your homework correctly, and I will see you next time. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.